up guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at how to undervolt your GPU to make it run cooler and quieter. But before we talk about that, I'm Nikhil from Nikhil Talks Tech, and I feature anything related to PC tech on this channel. So if you're interested, what are you doing? Hit that red subscribe button along with the notification bell so you do not miss when a new video goes live. And now let's come back to the video and talk about what is undervolting and how it's going to reduce your temperatures. Well, undervolting is when you reduce the amount of volts supplied to your GPU. And you might ask, well, if I reduce the number of volts, how is that going to affect the temperature and sound of my graphics card? Well, if you ask that, then you're right. Well, more voltage means more heat. At least for PC parts, it goes that way. Be it your CPU, GPU, or RAM. The more voltage you supply, the more likely it is to get higher and higher temps. So theoretically, if we do undervolting on our graphics card, then we should technically be able to achieve a temperature that is much lower than what it was at stock. Hopefully you understood what I said, and now let's go to the part where I show you guys how to undervolt your GPU to prevent crashes and make it run cooler and quieter on my PC. So let's begin. Okay guys, so as you can see, we are on my PC right now, and I'm going to be taking you guys step by step through the process of how to undervolt your graphics card to make it run cooler and quieter. Now, first things first, this can work with any sort of discrete graphics card you've got. It doesn't work with APUs, it only works with discrete graphics cards that you have installed on your motherboard. So other than that, this pretty much works with every single graphics card out there. Now, in order to start undervolting, you've got to have two specific pieces of software. The first one is MSI Afterburner, it's this one, and the second one is this Unigine Heaven. Now I'm going to be telling you guys where to download this. I'll put links in the description. So as you can see, first to install MSI Afterburner, you've got to go to this website. I'll link it down in the description for ease of access, and you've got to scroll all the way to the bottom. And here you can see three versions of MSI Afterburner. We want the PC version, and we want to download the stable version, not the beta, the stable one, to make sure we don't encounter any kinds of issues. Now, as far as Unigine Heaven, this you can easily download. Just click on this, it's going to download. And after it's downloaded, the installation process is very simple as well. All you've got to do is hit next, and it will complete the installation process. Now, I'm going to be telling you guys what this is and what this is. This is MSI Afterburner, and this is the utility that we will be using in order to undervolt our GPU. And this is Unigine Heaven, and this is the benchmark that we will use to stress test our undervolt to make sure that it is very, very stable. Okay guys, so once you've installed both these pieces of software, this is how they're going to look like. Now, MSI Afterburner might look a little different. Let me teach you quickly how to change it to this type of skin. So let me quickly show it to you guys. You want to go to user interface right here, and as you can see, there are countless amount of skins. So when you install it, it's going to come with some random one, but for the sake of this tutorial, we're going to be using the MSI Cyborg Afterburner skin, white by Direct Design. So this is a very basic skin with, it's a really nice UI, so I'm going to be using this skin to teach you guys how it's going to work. So I just quickly showed you guys how to change it to this. So you guys can quickly do that as well. Pause the video, do that, and come back to the video again. Alright guys, so this is Unigine Heaven. This is how it's going to look once it's installed. Leave all these settings at their default, but just run it at 1280 by 720. And full screen will be checked by default, so just uncheck that. So you can have a windowed mode of heaven running, because we do not want it covering our entire screen like that, because if we do that, then you can get to see how I treat the voltages and stuff. So that was a small point that I had to make there. Anyways guys, so let's start with the process itself. First up, you're going to want to click run. Again, take a look at all of these settings, uncheck full screen and set it to 720p, run it, and as you can see it started running, and we won't be needing this anymore. So it's loading, that's going to take a second, and when that's loading, I'm going to tell you guys how to open up the voltage frequency curve. So you click on MSI Afterburner just once, anywhere over here, and you want to hit Control F, and this opens up the voltage frequency curve. We'll come back to that in a minute. And as we were doing all of that, Unit in Heaven has loaded. So as you can see, it's this endless loop of this running, a lot of scenes. Basically it has about 26 scenes, so it's gonna go through all of this again, come back to the first scene, and then repeat that countless times. It's basically an infinite loop that keeps on going unless until you close it. So if we were noticing, before this was opened, our GPU was on our base clock of 1600 megahertz, but now after we've opened it, since it's rendering all of this, the GPU has jumped to its boost clock. So yeah, so that's exactly what we want. Now before we go through the voltage tweaking part, I just want to quickly tell you guys the interface of MSI Afterburner. Now we're not going to be touching any of these sliders today, so these I'm not going to be telling you. If you guys want a dedicated video of MSI Afterburner, then comment down below. I'll make one for you guys explaining all of this. Basically, we're not going to be touching this slider. These are the power limits and temp limits. These two sliders are for overclocking, and this is your fan speed. Really, what you only be realistically using this fan speed slider when you want to like bump up the fans or something like that. So, and after that, this little speedometer thing here, this is going to show our GPU's core clock right here and the GPU's memory clock right here. And yeah, and this another speedometer here, this is going to show you the temps. We're not going to be focusing on this part, just focus on this part. This is going to be the temps. And as you can see, our GPU has already risen to a temperature of 68 degrees. Now, once you make modifications here, you will have to hit this tick button. As you can see, it's grayed out now because we haven't made any modifications. It's all in the default settings. So you've got to hit that tick button to apply the modifications that were made. Now this is the reset button. This resets everything back to the default. We'll be using that at a later part in the video. I'm going to be telling you guys how it works. And again, this was the settings button that we used a couple of minutes ago to change this skin. Now that's pretty much it. That's all we'll be needing for this tutorial. So let's go ahead and let me tell you guys what this voltage frequency curve is. So as you can see, there are two parts of the graph. The x-axis shows you the millivolts and the y-axis shows you the frequency. Now the x-axis, as I said, shows you the voltage in millivolts, and the y-axis tells you the frequency in megahertz. Now these individual points are going to be defining at a particular point in time what clocks your GPU is going to be running at and the corresponding voltage required to run that clock. So for example, let me pick a random point here, let's say that one. So at this point, when our GPU is boosting to 1800 megahertz, the program is telling it to pull 900 millivolts. And let me pick another point just for the sake of an example. And now basically the program is telling the GPU that if you're boosting to 1860 megahertz, then you're gonna have to pull 950 millivolts. But today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be telling the program that, well, you gotta run instead. Now as you can see, at this point it needs to run at 1755 megahertz and it needs to pull 868 volts. But today we're going to be manipulating this graph. For example, we're going to be telling it to run 1900 megahertz on the same voltage. And to reset it back, just hit Control Z like I did. Anyway, so we're going to be telling it to run at a higher clock than what it's specified to at a particular voltage. So I know that was a lot of word vomit that I spewed at you guys there, but hopefully you understood it. If you didn't, again, there's the comment section. You can comment down below your question, and I'll just be so pumped to answer that and solve the problem for you guys. So hopefully you understood what I said there. Now, to begin the actual voltage tweaking, again, before we start this, I'm going to tell you guys this is going to be an extremely long video because I'm going to be going into very minute details that other guides aren't telling you. So this is like the ultimate guide to undervolting. And again, this is going to work with AMD and NVIDIA GPUs, so pretty much anybody can do it. And there's no excuse to not doing it because it's really simple, and this guide will basically teach you everything that you need in order to get started. So in order to start, first find out the point at which your graph starts to flatten. So for example, for me, that is right about here. So after this point, as you can see, the graph is flat throughout. There are no dips or anything like that. It's just completely flat. So I have found the point at which my graph starts becoming flat. So basically, this whole line is just telling the GPU to pull in 1050 millivolts and boost to 1935 megahertz. So remember this number 1935 because we are going to be using it. And now once you've found that, approximately go 5 to 10 points. Now you don't have to count it out because it'll be too tedious if you do that. Just approximately go for 8 or 9 points or even 10 points. And what you want to do is you want to pull that up to 1935. So now it's currently at 1905 and it's pulling 1000 millivolts, but we're going to be telling it boost to 1935 in the same number. Now you cannot get it exactly right, so it can be like +3 -3 or something like that. There can be a margin of error. So as you can see, I got to 1937, so I'm going to hit apply, and as you can see, that just applied it. And Unigine Heaven is still very stable. It's running, as you can see. So now we know that our undervolt is stable. Now you've got to repeat this process countless times until your graphics card crashes. And don't worry, when it crashes, nothing will happen. All you'll have to do is close Unigine Heaven and open it again. Before opening it, just hit the reset button so everything comes back to factory settings. Now, again, I'm going to go an approximate 10 points. Obviously, this is not going to be exact, but approximately just eyeballing it. And I'm going to push it to 1935 again, 1926. So 19, oh my god, this is okay. 1931 will do as well. Now, as you can see, I just applied that, and Unigine Heaven is still basically running, so we have no problems there. Now, as the graph gets steeper, I'd recommend you to go with lesser points. For example, now it's a bit steeper, so I'm not going to go 10 whole points because that's going to be too far off. I'm just going to go with 3 or 4 points. Again, push that up to close to 1935, 1937. Hit apply, and that's it. Your undervolt is applied. Now, sometimes it doesn't apply for some reason. It's kind of a glitch. I'm not sure if it's the problem with the software, if it's a problem with my graphics card, but if it happens like it did right now, then you guys can keep applying it 2 to 3 times and it'll get applied. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. Again, I'm going back 3 points and pulling this up to 1935 or close to 1935. 1937 will do. Hit apply. And that just applied our overall undervolt. And as you can see, Unigine Heaven is still very well running, and there are no glitches or any artifact or anything like that. It's just very clean and it's running very nicely. Again, repeat it. And now drag that up to 1935, 1937 will do. And as you can see, it didn't completely apply 1937. It only did 1935 because MSI Afterburner is telling me that, well, if you go above this 1935 value, then it's going to crash. But actually, it's not going to crash. It's just a prediction. Sometimes it might, but sometimes it might not. Just for sake of demonstration purposes, we are going to override that and go with 1937. And again, come back 3 points and pull that up to 1935. Now, this might crash, so if it does, after I recover from the crash, I'll clearly tell you what I did to recover from this crash. So I'm going to hit enter, and as you can see, it limited that again because it was MSI Afterburner is telling me that it's going to crash. But just for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to show you guys what will happen if I pull it all the way up. And now, once in a while, you gotta check the flat part of the graph and see what number it is. Now it's changed to 1950, so from now on, we're going to be targeting 1950 as our number, so we're going to pull that up. 1954 is very close, so I'm going to go there, hit apply, and it's still running, so that's really good to see. And when I did this before the video, it actually stopped running, but for some reason it's still running now, so it's good to see. Now, as you can see, the graph is very steep now, so I'm just going to go for 2 points, aim for 1950, hit apply, and as you can see, it again limited it all the way down. So, just for the sake of demonstration, for showing you guys, I'm again going to hit apply, and it limited it again. This is a weird kind of glitch in MSI Afterburner. And the third time I did it, it got applied, so that's good to see. Now, MSI Afterburner is okay guys, so we crashed, that's why the audio unfortunately went out. But don't worry, nothing happened. Unigine Heaven closed and everything is stable again because we're back to our base clock. Now, before starting Unigine Heaven again, you want to hit reset and it resets back to factory settings. So now we're technically on factory settings, so this will open exactly like it did before. Now we don't need anything this, and I close that. Now as you can see, it's opening. Alright, so it started running again. That's because we reset it back to factory settings. Now if you remember, it crashed somewhere between 850 and 875, so that's going to be the sweet spot. So I'm going to do 875 now, and as you can see, I just applied that and it didn't crash. So I'm gonna go up to 1935, the proper number, 1937, and as you can see, it applied now. So now before finalizing your numbers, you want to jump into a bunch of games like your favorite games and start playing it. And in case you encounter any crash in the middle of playing a game, then what you want to do is you want to drop the voltage by approximately by 10 to 15 millivolts. So I'll exactly show you guys. So imagine it crashed, now you've reset back to factory settings, and if you remember, 875 was a sweet spot for me, and just imagine that my game crashed. So I'm gonna go about, as you can see, that's about 5 to 6 millivolts, and as you can see, that's about 15 to 20 millivolts, and I'm gonna do that now. So just decrease the millivolts by 10 every time. Increase the millivolts by 10 every time, and again, while you're playing, if you encounter a crash, again increase it, and eventually you should be able to find your sweet spot or what the voltage is. Now, I have tested my graphics card and I have found out that before the video, I had found out that the sweet spot for me was 875 millivolts. So I'm gonna set it to 875 millivolts. And let me quickly do that. So as you can see, it got set to 1935 megahertz. Let me quickly tweak that again, 1937, and as you can see, it got applied. So as I told you, 875 millivolts running at 1935 megahertz was the most stable undervolt that I could get, and basically this was the most stable undervolt I could get. I tested it on all my favorite games, on some loads, and this particular undervolt was very stable. Now, after you guys found your stable undervolt number, to save it, you're gonna have to hit the save button right here. And as you can see, it starts highlighting these 5 boxes. I've already saved some profiles on 1 and 2, so that's occupied. I'm gonna hit 3, and this profile is saved at 3. Now, as you can see, I'm going to reset that and it comes back to factory settings. But when I hit 3, it comes back to my original settings. So it applied my undervolts. Now, once you're all done with your sweet spot finding of your undervolts, then only then do you have to hit this button where it applies the undervolts for you when Windows starts up. Now, if you hit this button before your finalized undervolting values, you have chances of Windows crashing on startup because there's not enough juice that's passing through the graphics card. So only when you're done completely and you're very confident with your undervolt numbers, only then should you hit this button. So when Windows boots up, the undervolts are automatically applied by MSI Afterburner and will be all done. Yeah guys, that was a very long tutorial. Now let's take a look at how much it improved our temps as well as the acoustics and the noise that the graphics card has reduced. So let's take a look at the temps. Okay, taking a look at the temps that we decreased through this undervolt. So before the undervolt, a 25-minute stress test of Unigine Heaven would yield us a maximum temperature of 77 degrees, and after the undervolt, the maximum temperature would be only 69 degrees. That's an 8-degree improvement, so you can really see how much it improved there. What are the advantages of lower temps? Well, lower temps means lower noise, so it doesn't sound like a jet taking off when you're trying to game. And secondly, lower temperatures makes your graphics card last longer because electronics are more prone to die sooner if they're exposed to very high temperatures for a long period of time. So this really helps with your graphics card's life, as well as the sound reduction, the noise reduction while you're gaming, so you're not disturbed by the fan noise of your GPU. Now let's take a look at my final thoughts. Okay, so that was a very long tutorial, but hopefully you guys understood it and were able to apply your undervolts. And if you were able to apply your undervolts, then please comment down below. I'll be happy to know that I helped somebody do this. And also, if you guys are having issues, then also feel free to comment down below. I'll be the first one to respond to that and help you guys fix those issues. Anyways guys, if you learned something new from this tutorial, then drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel because more awesome PC tech content is coming your way. And as always, it's Nikhil signing off from Nikhil Talks Tech, and I will see you guys in my next one. Peace.